Well, here we are. Yet another fanfic critic fanfic. Not written by Milo Kitty, not written by Rube. In fact, it's written by someone I've never even heard of. They're called Call of Duty FTW Nintendo FTL. A peculiar name. And the story is called The Fanfic Critic Reads and Reviews a Terrible Fanfic. Bloody Christ! Out of all the pictures of Meg they had to choose, why did it have to be that particular picture? Ugh, Christ. I know exactly what episode that's from. That's from Reenie's Horrible Death. That's probably like one of the scariest times I've ever seen Meg. I mean, I wasn't home when she did that episode, but I remember when I watched that episode and it even unsettled me, and this was me from back then. I've seen that expression on Meg's face several times. The first technical time was Reenie's Horrible Death, but in reality, I saw that expression on her face before then. But because of my memories being erased of that incident in particular, the first time I remember seeing her with that expression was Reenie's Horrible Death. But the first time was when she had, killed me all those years ago. So there's that, Reenie's Horrible Death. And then the last time that expression was directed towards me in particular was right after I'd killed Archangel Assassin, and that was when Meg confronted me in my room. So yes, very unsettling expression, and she still gets that expression. And in fact, I would say it's even worse now that she's older, because Meg's a bit more intense now that she's older. Yes, yes, especially when it comes to the creator. Yes. Right then. So, yes, bloody Christ. Okay, let's just move on with the bloody story. Here's a summary. The fanfic critic had to read and review the worst fanfic she had ever read. Alright, so this is rated M. It's English, it's humor parody. Wait a minute. This is a Street Fighter and Jimmy Neutron crossover. But it's about... I'm assuming it's supposed to be about Meg. Or maybe it's about me, because this was published back in 2024. But shouldn't this be under web shows? Whatever. So the characters are Luke, Miss Fowl, Principal Willoughby. It's over 2,000 words, one review, and yes, it was published in December of 2024. So rather recently. And it's complete. Right. Okay, so the grammar is already atrocious. Nothing is capitalized at all. So let's just read this. The fanfic critic one day decided to review a fanfiction. However, she didn't know, yes, and there's no punctuation, now that the fanfiction to review... Oh, she didn't know what fanfiction to review because she's stupid and lazy. Oh, I get it. So this isn't actually about me or Meg. This is someone who doesn't like the fanfic critic as a whole, and this is just a hate fic. So in other words, this is just going to be stupid. So she asked her YouTube audience, consisting of barely 10 people at most, what to review next. Okay, I will say, I know that my channel doesn't really have a lot of subscribers compared to Meg, but I still have like over 300 subscribers, so that's more than 10 people. One user suggested a very bad fanfic for her to review that would make for a very, very interesting episode. The fanfiction was called Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day. The fanfic critic began to read the fanfic as she reviewed it for her video, recording her reactions. But first she put in a really cool, not intro, but actually her intro is a really ridiculous and lame intro. Well, I'd say it's better than this story so far. The story is like very boring, like they're not even putting any emotion into it, it's just reading like a bloody summary. So, fanfic critic began to read the fanfic. She read Coochie and Coo roly-poly-oly one day were playing in a tree house with Azrael from Undertale. Right away, the fanfic critic made a snide remark, nitpicking how the crossover in this story was random and stupid and unnecessary. Does this person even actually watch the web series? Coochie and Coo played with their diapers as they poop flew all over Azrael's face, and he looked it up and enjoyed it. You know, I'm kind of curious to see if this fanfic actually does exist, the one that they're having the FanFic Critic. I'm not even going to say me or Meg, because I think at this point it's rather obvious that this person doesn't actually watch the web series. So it's called Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day. So let's just quickly look that up. Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day. I don't think it's an actual story, so it looks like this person wrote a fanfic within a fanfic. And I'm still not seeing like Jimmy Neutron or Street Fighter in this at all, so yes. Right then, so let's just continue to read. Where did I leave off? Okay, something about with their diapers. All okay, and he looked up and enjoyed it. She read, "The fanfic critic stared for 4 hours at the camera with a very angry expression." This camera does not have enough battery for me to stare at it for 4 hours, just to let you know. Then she roared. She screamed, "What the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, fuck, fuck. Why would someone enjoy eating a baby's poop? That's disgusting and vile. Also, why are the babies just playing alone in a treehouse without adult supervision while taking their diapers off and playing their poop? So gross and immoral. So gross and immoral. Sick, this fanfic is sick. This is a sick fic." Okay, now... Oh, okay, so this is the fanfic within the fanfic. Mario then climbed the treehouse to visit Asriel and Coochie and Coo. Fanfic Critic continued to read. Mario said, "Wahoo, I love you, Asriel," and I'm not going to bother doing voice acting, because Mario got bored seeing Asriel's face covered in poop. Mario and Asriel decided to make out with Asriel's face covered in poop, as Asriel still had poop in his mouth, as he shared the poop with Mario's mouth. As they made out in front of Coochie and Coo, as they watched and clapped and laughed. Rah! Fanfic Critic shrieked. "This is fucking sick and nasty," Fanfic Critic screeched. "Repetitive, aren't you? How dare you write this, you evil author?" Fanfic Critic, however, continued to read. She read, "And so the evil Luke from Street Fighter climbed up the treehouse and kidnapped Coochie and Coo. Mario and Asriel didn't care. Why don't you just have this be the story instead of inserting the fanfic critic inside of it? I mean, either way, both stories are bad so far." Fanfic Critic continued to scream, "What the fuck? Why would Mario and Asriel ignore those poor babies being kidnapped? What's wrong? That's wrong and evil. Mario and Asriel would always save people in danger. This is not in character for them to act. Has this author even played a Mario game or Undertale? Seriously, they would have saved those poor babies if this was more accurate." Luke ran away laughing as he had Coochie and Coo stuck in a bag, Fanfic Critic read. And then he went to a dungeon. "I don't like where this is going," Fanfic Critic said to herself. Oh god, this is tedious. Fanfic Critic read, "Luke stuck out his tongue, which had a chainsaw attached around it, and he used his chainsaw tongue to tear off both Coochie and Coo's butts, and they screeched and cried as oil flew out of their buttless behinds, and Luke laughed like Goofy." Fanfic Critic vomited right after she read that. She had vomited so much that vomit covered the camera. She then had to pause her reading to clean the vomit off of the camera. Yeah, I'm thinking this is technically supposed to be based off of the old web series. I'm thinking anyway. I mean, the fact that they used a screenshot of Meg and not me, so I don't think this is about the current web series, if it's about any of the web series. But clearly this is written by someone who's not an actual fan of either web series. When everything was cleaned up, Fanfic Critic continued to make her video and read the awful fanfic. As Coochie and Coo cried tears of pain, Fanfic Critic read, Luke went around trying to catch their tears with his tongue to drink their delicious tears. Then Luke used his chainsaw tongue to rip open both of their stomachs. The moment Fanfic Critic read that, Fanfic Critic passed out because her feeble mind couldn't handle reading this horrible fan fiction. Trust me, Meg and myself have read far worse than this. You don't give us enough credit. While she was passed out, she dreamed nightmares of Luke from... Okay, here's Street Fighter, finally! Luke from Street Fighter dancing with the dead bodies of Coochie and Koo lying next to him as the city of Townville... Why are we in Powerpuff Girls all of a sudden? Burned to the ground and everyone burned to death in the fire. When FanFic Critic woke up from her nightmare, she was really angry. Now she was determined more than ever to finish this fanfic and give the author a piece of her mind. She got back up and continued to read. Oil and gear flew out of Coochie and Koo's stomachs as Luke laughed and ate and drank everything that came out. FanFic Critic continued to read as she struggled not to vomit, but she pressed on. Luke then beheaded Coochie and Koo's head, and cooked them and sold their decapitated cooked heads as well as the rest of their dead bodies on the black market. The end. Okay, well that's the end of the fanfic within the fanfic. When the horrible fanfic was finally over, FanFic Critic glared at the camera very angrily for 2 weeks straight. Okay, we'll admit that is kind of funny. Again, the camera battery would not last that long. She then screeched. Okay, so saliva flew all over from the mouth, and a lot of the saliva covered the camera, but she didn't even notice because she was in such a rage. She couldn't focus on anything but a sheer hatred for this despicable fanfiction. I will assure you that never once has me or Meg spit all over the camera. This is the worst fanfic I have ever fucking read, screamed FanFic Critic. How the fuck could anyone write, write something so sick, so vile, so immoral? Although I'm thinking that the grammar and the typos is deliberate, but I digress. This kind of shit shouldn't have been written. In fact, people who write shit like this, they deserve to have their throats slit so they can't breathe to prevent themselves from writing such a vile collection of words. Yes, I think this is supposed to be based off of the old web series. I rarely whip out the straight blade in this series. So, yes, definitely about the old series. FanFic Critic foamed at the mouth as she continued to rage. How can anyone write something so cruel about such cute and adorable baby characters like Coochie and Koo? I like how they're writing this like I even know who they are. FanFic Critic ranted. I mean, they're just innocent babies. They didn't deserve to be tortured like that. And Luke from Street Fighter, what does the author of the story have against him? He's honestly pretty cool. I mean, he would never do anything like this. I'm not even familiar with Street Fighter at all. But okay then, and I don't even think Meg is either. FanFic Critic went to go grab her copy of Street Fighter 6. We don't have a copy of that. And she showed the cover art with Luke's stupid, ugly face on it. So I guess this person's not a fan of Street Fighter either. She pointed at it and said, does this guy honestly look like someone who'd torture robot babies for fun? FanFic Critic waited 10 million minutes. Now that would be a very long time. That would be like years, I believe. She then answered herself, no, of course not. I didn't think so. She slammed the Street Fighter 6 on the table and screeched yet again, foam flying from her mouth all over the room. How dare you, author, she yelled. How fucking dare you. You deserve. You know what? I'm going to flat out say it. You deserve to be killed for writing this. Yes, I mean it. You deserve the death penalty for writing this horrid garbage. People like you who write shit should have your heads cut off by an axe out in public. Okay. Meg was never this psychotic. For the shame you've brought upon all of humanity for writing shit like this. Bloody Christ. And there's still loads more to go. FanFic Critic wiped the film from her mouth. She then went to grab a television to show the camera. Okay. On the TV, she showed a bunch of stock footage she took while time traveling of medieval style executions done in medieval times. What? What? See this? FanFic Critic said while pointing at the TV. This is what you people deserve for writing fanfictions like I just read. She put the TV away and sat back down inside, then face-palmed. George of the Jungle came out of the closet and pointed and laughed because he thought face-palming was the height of comedy. Shut the fuck up, FanFic Critic yelled at George of the Jungle. She then got out a Glock and shot it at George of the Jungle, blowing his fucking head open, and he fucking dropped dead. Well, that was random. Of all the fanfictions I've read, FanFic Critic said, I've never wanted to teach the author a lesson about good writing, good characters, and morality more. FanFic Critic then went outside to chase down the author of Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day. You know, I think the only time Meg ever went after an author was when she went after Archangel Assassin, but that was because obviously they knew each other and she didn't actually mean any harm when she did that. I mean, they're not friends anymore, but still. But aside from that, she's never actually gone after any authors, like personally gone after them like this story is trying to imply. I mean, I've made plenty of threats towards Milo Kitty, but I wouldn't actually do anything if I were to meet them in person. Maybe old me, but not current me. Luckily, FanFic Critic knew who the author was and where he lived. In the Retroville school, Principal Willoughby was laughing while reading Sweet Apple Massacre on... Okay. Oh, I think it was a deal that they were reading it on the website, but I guess it got edited out, or the author did that deliberately. FanFic Critic barged through the door, pointed at Willoughby and shouted, "You!" Willoughby asked, "What the fuck? What the fuck do you want, you dumb woman? You wrote that horrible story on... !" Screamed the FanFic Critic. I'm assuming it's supposed to be on fanfiction.net. Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day. Yeah, and it was funny, Willoughby laughed. No, it wasn't, FanFic Critic yelled while stomping her foot on the floor. That story was sick and wrong. You need to be taught a lesson for writing that filth. Willoughby laughed and said, "Go cry about it, bitch." Miss Fowl then came up from behind and said, "I agree with FanFic Critic." She then squawked, "You are a bad fanfic author, Principal Willoughby, and you need to die." Miss Fowl screeched, "Yeah, I agree, Miss Fowl," FanFic Critic said. "You bitches will never stop me from making fanfics," Principal Willoughby said. Bloody Christ. Oh my god, is it almost over? Oh Christ, we're almost over somewhat. Okay, I lost my space. Okay, here we are. The battle was on. FanFic Critic punched Willoughby as they fought to the death for the morality of fanfics. Miss Fowl was a good backup as she got lasers at Miss Principal Willoughby. Willoughby roared and spit and breathed fire at the dumb bitches as they fought for weeks. Then out of nowhere, FanFic Critic woke up from her table. Turned out she was asleep after reading the fanfic. "Damn it," she said to herself. "I wanted to defeat that evil person for making that evil fanfic." FanFic Critic then discovered who really made Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day. Now she knew who her target was. Bloody Christ, this is just going to be a bunch of dreams within dreams. Bob Iger was in his evil castle writing the script for Mona 3. He was writing the script by taking his bare ass and shitting all over the paper to write the story. He was very proud of himself. He knew this movie would definitely make $3 billion at the box office. Then the walls crashed and FanFic Critic flew in the office with her superpowers. "Bob Iger," FanFic Critic yelled. "Ah, no," Bob Iger said. "Why do you come to kill me, FanFic Critic?" I highly doubt the person who directed Mona 3 knows who the hell me or Meg is. If that's even who this person really is. "You wrote that horrible story," FanFic Critic answered. "Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day. Look, I just wanted to do something funny with the roly-poly-oly IP, Bob Iger explained. "We haven't touched in decades. This is wrong," FanFic Critic yelled. "You should have made a decent story with good writing, good characters, deep, insightful plots, and good morals. But no, you made a disgusting and evil story about babies being tortured. Well, Coochie and Coo were not popular with roly-poly-oly fans," Bob Iger explained, "so I figured I'd give the fans what they want. Well, the fans are sick too," FanFic Critic yelled, "and they shall be punished along with you." FanFic Critic was about to use her laser eyes to shoot at Bob Iger, and Bob Iger screamed, "No!" Okay, and then out of nowhere, FanFic Critic woke up from her table again, so it's another dream within a dream. The story is so bloody stupid. Turns out she just had another dream within a dream while she was asleep after reading the fanfic. God damn it! FanFic Critic yelled to herself as she banged the table with her fist. How am I ever going to find the author of that terrible fanfic and teach him a lesson? Bloody Christ, we're almost done. That's when Luke from Street Fighter crashed through the windows and said, "It was me, I wrote Coochie and Coo's Very Bad Day." "What?" FanFic Critic yelled with shock. "That's right," Luke exclaimed. "I wrote that hilarious and hysterical comedic fanfic." Luke then began doing TikTok dances. After Luke did his TikTok dance, FanFic Critic questioned, Luke, how could you write something so evil and vile? I thought you were cool. I thought you were better than this. Luke laughed and said, well, bitch, I thought it was hilarious. Not to mention, though, what I wrote technically wasn't a fan fiction. I actually did torture and kill Coochie and Coo like that in real life. FanFic Critic stared at Luke from Street Fighter dumbfounded. Then after 5 hours of staring, her teeth turned to fangs and she growled while foaming at the mouth. You're coming with me, FanFic Critic growled. Luke laughed. Yeah, and what are you going to do? Lecture me to death about how to make a good fanfic? Ha 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 ha. FanFic Critic got out a taser and tased Luke from Street Fighter. She then dragged him with her as she took him to the roly-poly world. FanFic Critic got to the Poly house. She knocked on the door of the infamous Teapot house. The entire Poly family greeted her. FanFic Critic then explained, Luke killed Coochie and Coo, and then Mr. and Mrs. Poly laughed. They explained that they purposely let Coochie and Coo get killed by Luke because they hated them and wanted them to die. FanFic Critic was horrified. Then in a fit of rage, she got out her magic shotgun and blew open Mr. and Mrs. Poly's head. She also shot Ollie and Zoe's head open as well. Those awful and mean-spirited Polys deserve to die. FanFic Critic then figured out what to do with Luke from Street Fighter. In the city of Townsville, FanFic Critic and the mayor of Townsville agreed to hold a public execution party for the citizens of Townsville to watch Luke from Street Fighter be executed publicly. Luke from Street Fighter cried as he was strapped to a pole. FanFic Critic, being the executioner, went ahead to do her duty. She shoved an electric sword right through Luke's asshole, and then all the way through, poking through his mouth, clearly visible as his body was electrocuted by the lightning and his entire body exploded with lots of blood and guts. The citizens of Townsville cheered as they saw Luke die. It was so cool. They ate his blood and guts, and then the mayor of Townsville awarded the FanFic Critic with a Nobel Peace Prize. That was the stupidest thing I've ever read. And there was no, unless Principal Willoughby was supposed to be from Jimmy Neutron. I'm just curious if this person's written any other stories. Oh, he's done a couple of FanFic Critic stories. So, the last episode of FanFic Critic, this is a creepypasta. And then the other one is the FanFic Critic gets eaten by the Nostalgia Critic. And this one's only 200 words, so I'm just curious. I'm just going to read this one because why not? Right then, so this one. The FanFic Critic is in for a bad time when the Nostalgia Critic comes down from the sky to visit her at her home. Let's read it. The FanFic Critic is a very stupid, dumb buffoon. Growls, grunt the FanFic Critic. I hate those icky fanfics with disgusting things in them, and I want to kill the evil authors who make these stories. FanFic Critic waddles around her room, grunting like a fucking ugly demon, whining about how evil and sick the fanfic she reviews are. This person loves quotation marks, I've noticed. She then prayed into the Nostalgia Critic, asking him to kill the evil fanfic authors for her. Why would we pray to the Nostalgia Critic? Then from the sky, the Nostalgia Critic descended to the FanFic Critic's room. The FanFic Critic was happy to see her hero. We definitely don't think the Nostalgia Critic's a hero, especially after the whole Channel Awesome drama that happened years ago. However, the Nostalgia Critic did not come to her for nice reasons. Screech, the Nostalgia Critic said. The Nostalgia Critic opened his mouth wide because he wanted to eat the FanFic Critic. Okay then. FanFic Critic screamed like a gorilla and she ran away like Gorilla from Nostalgia Critic. The Nostalgia Critic chased her around and he was a raptor dinosaur running with his mouth wide open to eat the stupid FanFic Critic. Yes, clearly this person is not a fan of me or Meg apparently. The Nostalgia Critic said... What did he say? Oh, he said Screech, I guess. The FanFic Critic was cornered near her collection of dead roly-poly babies she killed for writing bad fanfiction. FanFic Critic had nowhere to run now. The Nostalgia Critic smiled evilly, then opened his mouth, roared like a T-Rex, and devoured the FanFic Critic's entire body by chopping her whole body into one gulp like he was a snake or some animal like that. Screech, the Nostalgia Critic said, the end. Well, that was really stupid. Christ. So he's written... Okay, so he wrote a Nostalgia Critic story, I'm guessing he just doesn't like internet reviewers as a whole. Okay, we might as well read this Nostalgia Critic one. I'm just a little bit curious. Yes, so this one. A tale of how the Nostalgia Critic ate Asriel and then ate the entire world of monsters that is Undertale. Alright. Once upon a Timmy, that stupid waste of oxygen Asriel was playing Mario Ballet while pooping his Bluey Strand branded diapers. Asriel giggled. It was then glowing red eyes in Asriel's closet. It was the Nostalgia Critic, and he was very, very hungry. He was as hungry as a hungry hippo. The Nostalgia Critic knew that Asriel would be big enough to fill his stomach. Okay, so I guess in his stories, the Nostalgia Critic just likes to eat women. The Nostalgia Critic crept behind Asriel. Asriel turned around and saw the Nostalgia Critic. Asriel asked the Nostalgia Critic if he wanted to play Mario Ballet with him. The Nostalgia Critic said, "Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it, so you don't have to." Immediately after, the Nostalgia Critic used his jaw to grab Asriel's entire body in his mouth. Nostalgia Critic swallowed Asriel whole like a snake would. The Nostalgia Critic had swallowed Asriel so quickly Asriel couldn't even scream. The Nostalgia Critic licked his lips because Asriel was so yummy. However, the Nostalgia Critic was still hungry. He wanted dessert. Asgore and Toriel were watching 8 Crazy Nights on their TV in the living room. When Nostalgia Critic saw what they were watching, he knew that he had to kill them for their bad taste in movies. Nostalgia Critic screeched like a banshee as he flailed his Glock around and shot Asgore and Toriel dead. He immediately ran towards their corpses and swallowed them both up like how a snake eats his food. Nostalgia Critic was still not hungry. He decided he would eat the entire world of Undertale, so Nostalgia Critic used his superpowers to grow giant. So giant, his head was bigger than the entire monster world of Undertale, and with one large bite, he ate the entire world of Undertale whole. All Undertale monsters were digested into the Nostalgia Critic's stomach as they all died and became extinct. The world of Undertale was no more. Nostalgia Critic then burped. Yes, so... And then he has a bunch of Donkey Kong stories, another FanFic Critic story. No, 2 more FanFic Critic stories. Mario Kart, another Donkey Kong. Okay, Goku. Okay, the one that I just read. Another one. Yes, it just seems like this person just likes to write a bunch of troll fics. A lot of them about Luke from Street Fighter. Skibbity Mario. Yes. Wow, he has a ton of stories. How many stories does he have in total? 96 stories. Yes. So it looks like a good chunk of his stories are either crossovers, gamer ones, Undertale, a few Nostalgia Critic ones, a bunch of ones about the FanFic Critic, but not really about me or Meg, just... Yeah, so, yes, this was stupid. It just deliberately written bad and just bloody stupid. Obviously, the person hasn't actually watched either web shows. He just likes to write hate fanfics. You know, I give Milo Kitty a lot of crap for her stories, but at least her stories are entertaining, and at least you can tell that she is a fan of both my series and Meg's series, where this person, on the other hand, just seems to write nonsensical garbage just because he can. And I'm just going to let you know now I'm not reading any more stories from this author because it's obvious that this author is just writing troll fics, and they're just stupid. Right then. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to leave a like and leave a comment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'll greatly appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next episode. Until then, cheerio. Hey guys, it's the creator. I'm just going to clarify why I do not want you guys to request any more stories from this author, because I'm on this guy's page right now. And I just skimmed through a few of his stories. I've actually scrolled down to the very bottom of his page to his very first story, which was written back in 2021. And aside from the enigma that his earlier stories actually had better spelling, grammar, and layout than his current stories, His old stories are pretty much like his current stories. This guy pretty much seems to write fanfics about fandoms that he doesn't like. Every single story is pretty much like the stories that I read on this show today. Every single one. There is not a serious fanfic that this guy has written at all. And it seems like every single story is just the same scenario. So, yes, don't waste my time sending me this guy's crap because I'm not going to review any more of it. So it seemed like in the beginning he was obsessed with writing a bunch of Jimmy Neutron and video game crossovers. He wrote a bunch for Mario. He wrote a few for Legend of Zelda, obviously of Street Fighter. Then he started to write some Rugrats stories where Drew Pickles does horrendous things to his daughter and wife. And he has a few Nostalgia Critic stories, and the couple that I read, he clearly doesn't like Nostalgia Critic either. I just think he doesn't like internet reviewers as a whole. Then he has a bunch of Disney ones, and then the ones about my series started popping up in like 2024, so I don't even think he's aware of the current channel. So, yeah, this guy's stories are just not worth reading. And the people who have left reviews for most of his stories seem to be spammers that just want to do art commissions. I mean, there's been a couple of actual reviews scattered here and there. But aside from that, the reviews are just like from scammers. So I honestly don't understand people like this author. It's like, if you don't like something, then just say you don't like it and move on. Why are you wasting your time and energy to write stupid shit like this? Especially if it's not even good or entertaining. Because it's not. It's just not. It's like, people, don't waste your time doing crap like this. Okay? Just don't. I mean, if you want to write troll fics that are disgusting or entertaining, you can do what, Comics Nix does. I mean, his stories are disgusting, but they can be entertaining. Milo Kitty's stories are a blast, and they've gotten better. You can write decent troll fics and hate fics that are actually entertaining. I mean, heck, even Hamo Hamster wrote a very entertaining hate fic about me years ago that I did a dramatic reading of. I don't think she meant for it to be entertaining, but it was pretty entertaining. This, on the other hand, from what I read, and not just what I read on the show itself, but what I read before I even started doing this video, none of these stories are entertaining. Like, they're not entertaining. They're just kind of pathetic. And he's been doing this since 2021. It's like, dude, get a hobby. If you're not going to write anything good, then don't write at all. So yeah, I'm not going to take any more requests from this author. And I'm going to stick by that. So if you guys send requests for this author anyway, I'm just going to ignore it. Sorry, not sorry. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And Susan will see you in the next episode. Bye.